All right, it's just preparing the live stream there, so that's probably okay. Apparently it's on live on YouTube. If you have any questions, just type them into the chat while I wait for this thing to load. Usually takes a while. If you're on YouTube, hello. In this one, we're going to look at past verbs, and it's working. That's cool. Let's get started. This is going to be an important little lecture, and I hope it's one that will be helpful, because verbs in English, as we've discussed, are extremely confusing, right? They're extremely confusing. They're complicated. They change so much. And we found out last week that they have a secondary meaning. So you might have a verb like live, and we found out last week that, I live in Melbourne versus I am living in Melbourne. The meaning changes from the verb change. So I live in Melbourne is permanent. I am living in Melbourne gives a sense of it being temporary. It's going to end. The same thing we're going to find out today with past verbs. If you haven't seen the present verb lecture, you should watch that right here. So let's get started. Let's just think about these verbs for a second and think, why do we need verbs and why do they need to change to indicate time? Let's say you have a dentist appointment and it's located on a specific day at a specific time. When is it? Well, if it was yesterday, there you go. You have to change the verb to indicate that it was yesterday, or that you visited the dentist yesterday, or you visited the dentist last week. Or if tomorrow, you'll say you will visit the dentist, or you are going to visit the dentist. So these verbs have to change to indicate when. Simple as that. And that's where it gets complicated, because there isn't just 3 verbs. There's just not just one for past, one for present, one for future. There are 12 verb tenses. Whoa, that's problematic. So we need to sort that out. So verbs change to show when something happens, happened, or will happen. Let's look at this verb as an example. Produce, produces, produced, will produce, is producing, was producing, will be producing, has produced, had produced, will have produced, has been producing, had been producing, will have been producing. Why so many changes? Because we need to tell the person we're speaking to when this thing was produced, will be produced, is being produced, etc. In other words, we need to locate it in time. Today we're going to focus on past. We're going to focus on past. So let's talk about describing past events, using those verbs to describe things that happened yesterday, a week ago, a million years ago. It doesn't matter. But there are a set of verbs that we use to describe things that happened prior to now. So first things first, let me disappear. Please identify the verb that refers to the past. Yeah, I can see the chat cranking away. That's good. Correct. Well done. Received. Blueberries received lots of media attention last week. This changes to show this. Cool. Let's do it again. Identify the verb that refers to the past. Cool. Yes. This is a 2-part verb. There are 2 parts to this verb. It's not just one word. There are in fact 2 parts to the one verb here. So it's not just studied, it's have studied. Cool. One more. Identify the verb that refers to the past. This verb, here's a clue, has 3 parts. It's a 3-part verb. 3 parts. So you should be typing in 3 words. Not just one, not just studying. Should be have been studying. These 3 parts, 1 verb tense. Cool. Let me appear again. So this is going to scare you, describing the past. There are, in fact, 7 ways to describe the past. Located. Astronomers located a new star. Astronomers have located a new star. Astronomers have been locating a new star. Astronomers were locating a new star, had located, had been locating, and used to locate. The good news is, when you're writing academic prose, for example, an essay, you only really use 3. There are 3 commonly used past verbs in academic writing. So for IELTS academic, PTE academic, TOEFL, and OET, for example, if you're doing one of those tests, you're more than likely only going to use these 3 verbs to describe the past. Astronomers located a new star, have located a new star, and have been locating a new star. So that's good news. We don't need to focus on the other 4. The other 4 are more used for storytelling, which maybe I'll do a lecture another time on that. But let's have a look at these 3. So these past verbs, these common ones, these common past verbs have different meanings. Like we looked at last week with present verbs, the difference between I am living in Melbourne and I live in Melbourne. I am living is temporary, I live is permanent. Past verbs do the same thing. So we've got this one here where you do verb ed, I lived in Melbourne, past fact. So that's the meaning there. I have lived in Melbourne, have verb plus ed. It's presently significant, okay? I'll get to this, I'll explain it in a second. And the third one, I've been living in Melbourne, I have been verbing, it's presently significant, still happening. Let's talk about these past facts. This one's kind of easy to get your head around. So a biologist modified a virus in 1992. Fact. Happened in the past. Past fact. A professor explored a new theory yesterday. Past fact. An earthquake destroyed a city 2 weeks ago. Past fact. An engineer created a robot last year. Past fact. Archaeologists found a tomb in 1857. Past fact. So we use this verb to describe something that happened in the past and something that's factual. And you'll notice here that we've got a specific time reference. In 1992, yesterday, 2 weeks ago, last year in 1857. We've got precise time reference. We're referring to something that happened factually. Please identify the past fact. Cool. Don't worry, this will get harder. You think this is easy now? No, I won't make it too hard. Good. Well done. So a team of scientists found an unusual fossil in 1896. Well, we've got found and we've got in 1896 referring to a past fact. Let's think about it like this. Okay, so we're looking at a past fact. And this thing indicates time, how time works. So here we've got the future, like tomorrow, next week, next month, 2055, that's the future. And here we've got the present, something that's happening now, right? And then we've got everything, so time sort of travels like this through the present and becomes the past. Might be 2 hours ago, might be yesterday, might be 100 years ago, might be 1896, might be 100 million years ago. So everything in the past is here. So if we're talking about the past, we use this verb found. Found. They found a fossil in 1896. Identify the past fact. Cool. Well done. Correct. Crawled. Crawled is the verb. That's the thing that's the word that changes to indicate the past. And here we can see the time reference 100 million years ago. That was a past fact. So it's right back here, 100 million years ago. Crawled, past fact. Fish crawled onto land 100 million years ago. Cool. Identify the past fact. Good. Correct. Well done. Declined. There's your verb. There's changed to indicate that it's in the past and it's factual. It's one of the, it's not have declined or has been declining. It's just declined. So it's referring to a fact. And here's the time reference, last year. So they declined last year. It's still in this past section here. Cool. All right, fine. That was pretty easy. That one's pretty easy, the past simple. Let's talk about verbs that are presently significant. Now, this is weird because I'm teaching you about past verbs, but now I'm talking about presently significant. What? Has the teacher gone crazy? Well, let's have a think about this. So presently significant. So biologists have modified a virus. Why is that presently significant? Well, it's still in the past because maybe they modified this virus yesterday or last week or last month, but it has some sort of significance now. It's becoming it's relevant to talk about it now, to bring it from the past into the present. Investigators have explored a new theory. Maybe they did it an hour ago or 2 weeks ago. It doesn't matter. The time reference is not precise with these verbs. What's important, it happened, but now it's relevant or it's presently significant. Earthquakes have destroyed a city. Scientists have reported an important discovery. Physicists have split an atom. Archaeologists have found new tombs. So let's think about this. Firstly, identify the presently significant verb, please. Correct. Well done. Right. 2 young scientists have found an unusual fossil. When exactly? I don't know. I don't know exactly when. It may have been yesterday or last week. That's beside the point. What's important here is this is presently significant, or it's currently relevant. It's relevant now. Have found an unusual fossil. It's becoming, right now as we're talking, it's significant now. I don't know exactly when they found it though. So it works like this. So if something's presently significant, like 2 young scientists have found an unusual fossil, it's happened in this past here. We don't know exactly when, but it's beside the point. We're not talking about precise times. We're not talking about past facts. We're talking about something that happened in the past, but which is presently significant, presently important. It's currently relevant. So that's why we use this verb. Let's do another one. Identify the presently significant verb. Whoops, that should say 2 months. That's a typo. Yes, correct. This is called the present perfect, Divya. This is the present perfect verb. Good, well done. Excellent. Everybody's got it right. Cool. So monarch butterfly numbers have declined in the last 2 months. Sorry, my mistake. So have declined in the last 2 months. It's presently significant. And there's no precise time that they declined. There's no exact time. They just, over the past 2 months, it's been decreasing or declining, the number of butterflies. So it works like this. It's presently significant. So the butterfly numbers have been declining or have declined. And so it becomes present because we're talking about it now. It's presently significant. Cool, one more. Identify the presently significant verb. Correct. Have risen. Sea levels have risen recently. Sea levels have risen recently. It's presently significant. Don't know exactly when? No, just recently. So they have risen recently. And this is presently significant. We're talking about it now, for example. Right, let's look at the third one. After we look at this one, we're going to compare them, put them side by side to see the differences in meaning. But before we do that, we need to do one more. This is the have been verbing, have been decreasing, have been developing, have been creating, have been seeing, have been watching, have been exploring. These ones are presently significant, same meaning as before, but there's an additional meaning, and that is that it's still happening. Okay, let's look at some examples. Biologists have been modifying a virus. So it's significant, presently significant. They've been doing it for who knows how long, maybe 2 days, maybe 2 weeks. I'm not sure how long, but they're still doing it. So biologists have been modifying a virus for the past 2 weeks. Investigators have been exploring a new theory for the past 200 years or whatever, I don't know. Earthquakes have been destroying a city for the last 2.5 hours. Physicists have been splitting an apple. Been splitting an apple, a Granny Smith apple. Physicists have been splitting an atom. And archaeologists, whoops, my mistake. That should be have been finding a new tomb. Well, that's why I didn't do that. It doesn't make sense. Right, here's a task. Identify the presently significant and still happening verb. Has 3 parts. Good. Correct. Have been building. Engineers have been building driverless cars. It's presently significant and still happening. So it works like this. It happened in the past, but it's still relevant in the present. It's presently significant and it's still happening. So they're going to do it tomorrow, next week, maybe 3 years from now. They still will be building new cars. So they have been building driverless cars, have been building, but it's going to be ongoing. That's the difference. The last one we looked at, which is engineers have built a driverless car, stops here. But engineers have been building a driverless car, will continue into the future. See the little chat. Divya, is this present perfect continuous? Yes, this is called the present perfect continuous. Let's do one more. Good, well done. 3 parts. Have been looking. Physicists have been looking for the universe's dark matter. Presently significant, still happening. They've been looking for the universe's dark matter. It's relevant now, significant now, and it's going to continue into the future because it's unfinished. Cool. So we've looked at the 3 individually, and we've looked at the meaning of that verb. Not just the meaning of look or see or discover, but the secondary meaning of discovered or have been discovering. Because that verb in itself, the verb you select, you choose it for a reason because it's going to indicate something about time. Let's put them side by side because it'll make more sense. So here we've got the past fact, verb ed. I lived in Melbourne. Right? I lived in Melbourne. I lived in Melbourne in 1996. Past fact. What about if we put it side by side with I have lived in Melbourne? So it's presently significant. Maybe you're talking to a friend and your friend is thinking about moving to Melbourne. And you say, oh, I've lived in Melbourne. I have lived in Melbourne. you bring it into the present from the past, and you say, I lived in Melbourne in 1996. And then you talk about it as a fact. Versus, I have been living in Melbourne. Here, you're still living in Melbourne. It's presently significant and it's still happening. You're still living in Melbourne. I've been living in Melbourne for 14 years, for example. I can see that chat flashing. Yes, that's right. Someone just asked, we talked about this last week as a present verb. And that's because this verb here, have lived in Melbourne, and this one here, have been living in Melbourne, they're neither, or they're both, they're past verbs and they're present verbs as well, because they have significance in the present moment, but they happened in the past. So they're in both lectures. They're in the lecture on present verbs and then in the lecture on past verbs as well. That's what makes this a bit complicated, because when you think about English verbs, it's not simply you have verbs for the present, verbs for the past, and verbs for the future. They're quite complicated, and that's why people struggle to use them accurately. Yes. Let's do a task. I'll go to Q&A at the end. If you have any questions, please hold your questions to the end. I want you to identify the past fact. I'm going to put all of these verbs together. I want you to identify the past fact, the one that's complete, it's finished. It happened at a specific time. 1, 2, or 3. Which one is the past fact? Good. Whoop, Mihul, you might want to check yours. And Bharat, please check yours. Good. So if you're going to write a sentence and you want to talk about a past fact, an isolated past fact, you're going to use number 3. Sociologists used census data to make decisions. So this is how you have to think when you're writing accurate sentences. Which verb do I use? Well, it depends on what you're trying to say. Depends on your meaning. Now I want you to identify the presently significant verb, that one that is not still happening. Good. Deep, please check yours. Oh, good, well done. Good. All right, let's look at these sentences. Let me just move that. So I'm looking for the presently significant or the currently relevant one. Scientists uncovered a method for improving short-term memory. It's not really presently significant, is it? Because it seems like it's just in the distant past and it's completed, it's finished. It's more like a past fact. Scientists have uncovered a method for improving short-term memory. Scientists uncovered a method. Scientists have uncovered a method. This one's good. It brings it into the present. It's presently significant. It's currently relevant. Versus scientists have been uncovering a method. This one's still going. This one's still happening. So the answer is number 2. This one's presently significant, currently relevant. Last one, identify the presently significant and it's still happening. 1, 2, or 3. Good. Good. All right. So I'm looking for presently significant. So I'm bringing it from the past into the present because it's relevant now, and it's also still happening. So researchers tracked stem cells. No, that's back there. That's in the past and it's finished. What about researchers have tracked stem cells in the human brain? Well, that's also finished. It's not still happening. Researchers have been tracking stem cells in the human brain. Good. This is currently relevant. It's significant now, and it's also still happening. So it's number 3. Right. Let's look again at the difference between past simple and present perfect, because this one really seems to be problematic. The difference, for example, between I lived in Melbourne and I have lived in Melbourne. What's the difference there? Because you need to get this so you can be accurate in your writing and speaking. So look at these 2 examples. Engineers developed a driverless car. Engineers have developed a driverless car. What's the difference? Well, first of all, usually this past fact verb will come with a precise time, like 2015. Engineers developed a driverless car in 2015 because it's a past fact. It happened at a specific time. This one, you cannot use a precise time. Engineers have developed a driverless car in 2015 is wrong. It just feels wrong because you're not talking about a fact. It has a different purpose, this verb. Instead, it's bringing that past event. Maybe it happened in 2015, but if you use this verb, you don't use a precise time with it because that's not the point of the verb. The point is to pull it from the past and bring it into the present and talk about it because it's currently relevant. So engineers developed a driverless car in 2015 is a past fact, happened at a precise time. Engineers have developed a driverless car. It's presently significant and there's no precise time reference. So in saying that, now I want you to select or choose the correct past verb for these 3 sentences. Snails destroy crops for thousands of years. Presently significant, still happening. Untreated water make our kids sick, past fact. Researchers discover a way to remove fear from the brain, presently significant. What are the 3 verbs? So Eshwa, check your number 1, please. Shweta, check your number 1. Remember, it's still happening. Number 1 is still happening. Good, Malakajuna, well done. Bharat, remember, number 1 is still happening. Sundar, number 1 is still happening. No, no, you got that right. Good, Sundar, well done. Good, Esther Kong, well done. You got it. Good, Jo Marie Adele San Pedro, you've got it. Yes, good. Yes, good, Baljit, well done. Good, Sidhu. Cool, well done. Let's have a look at the answers here. All right, so we need to choose the verb. We're talking about the past. We have 3 options. Let's say we're writing our PTE essay or we're writing our IELTS academic essay, right? Talking about the past. We want to describe something, an event that happened. Now, we've got 3 choices because we're going to talk about snails and crops. I don't know why. And you need to think to yourself, okay, am I going to describe a past fact? Snails destroyed crops for thousands of years. It's possible. But the difference that we want to make is they're still destroying crops. So we want to put it in the past, make it presently relevant, significant, and say that it's still happening. Therefore, we'll say something like snails have been destroying crops for thousands of years. What about number 2? We're writing our PTE essay or our IELTS essay, and we want to talk about a past fact. Okay, so we'll say, which one are we going to use? Untreated water has made our kids sick, or made our kids sick, or have been making it interesting. Researchers discover a way to remove fear from the brain. We want this to not be about a precise time in the past. We want this one to be from the past into the present because it's relevant. So these are the verbs that you should have chosen. Snails have been destroying crops for thousands of years. Presently significant, still happening. Untreated water made our kids sick. Past fact. Researchers have discovered a way to remove fear from the brain. Presently significant. Good. Let's do it again. Select the correct past verb. Remember this now. Think about you're in the PTE or you're in the IELTS. You need to choose the right one. Good, well done. So, Jo Marie San Pedro, please check your number 2. Oops, I should have, I made a mistake, number 2. I gave you the answer. There you go, anyway. Right, so temperatures worldwide change. I've got 3 options. I can say temperatures worldwide changed, but then I'm going to be referring to a specific time, last year. But I don't want that. That's not the point of what I'm saying. The point of what I'm saying is I'm saying that it's presently significant. Scientists found a new type of butterfly, past fact. Well, I gave you the answer there. Cancer cures show promise. It's fine, but past, give it some significance now and show that it's still happening. So I've got these 3 decisions to make in terms of meaning. So I'm going to say temperatures worldwide have changed because it's presently significant. I'm not talking about a precise time. Scientists found a new type of butterfly. I'm talking about a past fact. Now, somebody wrote number 2 doesn't have a specific time reference, and that's right. It doesn't need it. I could say scientists found a new type of butterfly yesterday or on the 17th of January or in 2012. But sometimes you don't need to give the precise time, but you can just say scientists found a new type of butterfly. The butterfly is a monarch butterfly. It's black and yellow, whatever. Ultimately, though, I'm talking about this as a past fact. They found it. 3, I want to talk about this as it's presently significant and it's also still happening. So cancer cures have been showing promise. Cool. Let's use those same sentences but change the type of verb to give it different meaning. Good, well done. Yes, good, Sundar. Well done. You fixed your own mistake. Excellent. Cool. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Good. I think this is working. Oh my God. Cleaning up the verbs. It's a good thing. Right. So temperatures worldwide change. We saw this before, but this time we're going to use the same verb, but we want to say something else by changing the verb. So what was the last one? Temperatures worldwide have changed. This one, we want to say the same thing, but show that it's also still happening. So we'll just change the verb tense. Scientists found a new type of butterfly. This is the fact sentence. This time we want to bring it into the present to give it present significance. Cancer cures show promise. We want to talk about this as a past fact. So temperatures worldwide have been changing. Presently significant, still happening. Scientists have found a new type of butterfly. So we use this verb to show that it's presently significant, it's currently relevant. And cancer cures showed promise in 1997, but then, it didn't work out. Past fact. Recap. So, describing the past, there are 3 commonly used past verbs in academic writing or essay writing, for example. There's the past fact, the simple past, as they call it, verb ed. There's the present perfect, which is have verb ed, which refers a sense of being presently significant or currently relevant. And the third one is have been verbing, present perfect continuous. It's presently significant, still happening. Cool, that's the end of that. So let's go to Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. Hopefully that cleared that up. Jay, wouldn't we consider past perfect as past activities rather than present perfect? Past perfect is when you say butterflies had declined. I'll look at those verbs in a different lecture because they're not common, they're uncommon, they're rare, and they're rarely used in academic writing. So you don't really need to worry about them for the PTE or the IELTS or the OET. I'll talk about them in a different lecture because it's not for academic writing. Gaurav, can we compare present and past? For example, I am living, I have been living. Oof, interesting. I haven't done that one yet. Oof, that's a good one. Yes, actually, no, I did that last week. So please check the one from present perfect last week, Gaurav, for a proper answer for that one. Muna, sir, please tell us about the usage of the sentences in general IELTS training writing. Right, I was thinking about that because you have to write a letter in IELTS general. And sometimes you have to tell a story. Okay, fine. Let me do a lecture next week and it will be about the other verbs and it will be relevant for IELTS general. Okay, Esther. Researchers found versus researchers were found. Okay, I think you're talking about active versus passive. So you can watch that video up there somewhere. So Esther, go to Google, go to YouTube, type in E2 core skills, look for active versus passive, because that's what you're talking about. Marilyn, can we use those verbs you showed us for describing the image? Yes, absolutely, because you're talking about past facts. If you're looking at a graph and it's in the past, the x-axis is like from 1992 to 1998, for example, you're going to be using past verbs. You're going to say the trend increased and then decreased because you're talking about past facts. Correct. Feng Hui, so does had been doing, I'll talk about that another time, Feng Hui, with past perfect continuous. Divya, I had finished my homework. Is past perfect or present perfect? Past perfect. I have finished my homework. It's present perfect. Malika Juna, I missed yesterday's session at 2:30 p.m. Will it be uploaded to YouTube? Yes, for paid members. Barani, how is present significant different from present perfect? It's not, it's the same. It's just a description of it. Cool. Bye. I hope that was helpful. Yes. See ya. I'll see you in the webinars soon for more of this. Cool. Thanks a lot.